All right, guys, thanks for joining today. If any of you are watching this, we have our guest speaker today, Ben Williams. Ben is our Claude expert, and we're going to be talking about agents inside of Claude Cowork, that sort of thing. So I'm really excited to see what Ben has prepared for us today. And without further ado, we'll just turn the time over to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you very much, Mason. Yeah, so we're going to look at agents. We're going to look at when to use them, when not to use them. A lot of talk about agents, and I think often people are overusing them. In fact, we just need automation. We look at where it all fits in and how you can work with them and how you can put them into your business. Okay. So what I want to do is go through a little bit of a worked example, just to give you a bit of context. So I've been working on this kind of real estate offer. Now, I would have presented this in the last workshop when I talked about what an AI operating system is. And we looked at 3 different AI operating systems. One was just using Claude Code and then actually using it in Cowork and then a SaaS offering. So I showed a real estate offer, and what I developed there was 5 skill categories. You can see them here, and then maybe 12 skills uploading them as plugins, if you like. So skill categories were list copy, market reports, vendor prep, sellers updates, the content engine. I think we did that when Fable 5 came out, and it was quite funny. It's like a day later it got axed, and yesterday or the day before it is up and running again. There's really 2 angles that I saw for using AI agents in this project, if you like. Really, one is using the agents to do your discovery business problem. What is the problem we're trying to solve? Yeah. And also, really, what is language that real estate agents use in forums and the notes? So I was using agents to do the research, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Every business has that problem. They need to understand about their customer, and do their research. And then the second bit was actually building the agents, and I used Claude Code to develop these skills of these agents, and they would then be used to Cowork. Okay, so I will be switching between the 2 angles. One, using agents to do the research, and then secondly, using agents to get them deployed and to be part of offer that would be used by real estate agents.
Cool. Right on.
Okay. What I did then, rather than go and do all the research myself, I did do a little bit, prompted Claude Code to go off and run and do the research, try to find out pain points and the language that real estate agents are using. And this is what it comes back with. And I've got a little bit tongue in cheek that we can do the whole market research, whether it's the real estate agent doing that, myself doing it with the perspective whilst they make a cup of coffee. It's not really quite like that. You can guide it, you can spin it, and you can let it run for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. You come back and iterating with it, really. And what we'll find is that you can spin up these agents as well in parallel. So have you, Mason, been using agents, or have you seen them get invoked when you're using Claude Code?
Yeah, so not intentionally. Sometimes I just leave that to Claude.
Yeah.
When I'm working inside of a project, I have seen it happen where it mentions something about I basically, somewhere in my prompt, it's like how do I put it? We're working on 2 or 3 different separate tasks. Some of them may be related, but basically Claude will get back to me and be like, cool, let me just run all of these in parallel or something like that. It says something like that, and then basically just gets all of it done. And so I just imagine in the background, it's spinning up these agents, but I never really intentionally invoke them right now.
Yes. And it's good that you've noticed that they have been spun up in the background. And I think if we're observing that, we can go another step. There'll be certain situations you just say, now go spin them up. Recently did the Claude Architect certification, which I'm pleased to say I passed. And
Nice.
Which is, it was pretty tough, but it was really good way to learn a bit more deeply about AI agents, orchestration, and everything around Claude Code. And it does sharpen up your skills. So even if you don't intend to do the certification, I would say there's a lot of value in looking at its content. Some people know, other people don't. But when you spin up an agent as well, it does it really in a new session. So it doesn't pollute the context. And that's really quite important because, okay, even though we have these LLMs that have 1 million tokens, it is best practice to reset them around the 25% mark or 30% mark. I typically go up to maybe about 40% or 400,000 tokens.
Okay.
But during that process, I will invoke these sub-agents and they will go off and they will do it in their own session and they will return the results. So you get a longer ride, if you like, overall session kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So what we've got here is I've got an AI operating system that I've built, and I've probably got in excess of 30 to 50 skills. And two of those skills, one's called, it's not called super data, but it uses super data, and the other one uses Firefall. Now, super data, what that one is some software that you can integrate with, and it can go and it can pull transcripts from YouTube, the likes kind of things. I use that to understand the ICP or the real estate language, yeah, and we can see some of the language that are being used here. And then the second one is really around Firefall. So again, that's really to go and retrieve potential prospects, a client list. So these are skills, and main agent that you're working with can use these skills as well. Okay. So, yeah, Mason, you said you've spoken to Claude and has spun up different agents, sometimes in parallel. Okay. And if we look at the documentation, you will find there are 3 out-of-the-box agents. One's called Explore, one's called Plan, one's called General Purpose. Yeah. Do you use any of these? Have you seen any of them being used?
If plan is the same as like when you're in cursor or anti-gravity, you know how you can select that. I don't know if it was called mode or if I called it mode,
Yes.
like plan mode. If that's related, then yes, I have used that.
Yeah.
That's the extent.
Yes. Yeah. And it is pretty much that. And we've talked about that before, that it's really good practice to go in and plan your project before you go in and execute in what you're trying to achieve. I used to use the /plan quite a bit, but now I don't. But I plan in a different way, that I'm giving instructions to Claude to do my tasks, if you like.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we just close this? Then we've got Explore, and that's really research agents. We've got your general purpose, your all-rounder, and also you can use these agents within your ecosystem. So if I just jump quickly to here, what we've got is a lot of folders and so forth. Now, you want to keep on top of that, restructuring and making sure everything's shaped how it should be, but you can use the Explore agent to research your code, if you like, and find out where things are. Likewise, if you're trying to migrate a legacy application, you can use these agents as well.
So is that what you would be using Explore agent for mainly, is for your own code base, or is it just anything research related?
Yeah, you can use it anything based. So it's almost like this is a layer of abstraction for you. We have these features and agents to use, so you can use them for both. Like I never actually say, now go use the general purpose agent to do this. Do you know what I mean? But I might use words like, what I want you to do, and I did do this, is I've got a demo here, but I think it'll take a bit too long. When I went in, I said, okay, what I really want is I want to kind of research real estate agents, some of the challenges and issues that they have week to week. And I want to segment it in these 4 categories. Yeah. And then, go spin up 4 parallel agents, but they will have each of their own instructions. And then it'll come back and the data, the analysis will be aggregated or synthesized kind of thing. And then that will go back to coordinator agents.
Got it.
There's a link down there. Yeah, we can have a bit of a look at that later. I encourage you, but that's just Claude, I guess, technical documentation on what sub-agents are. So just a reminder about sub-agents and the difference between sub-agents and team agents is sub-agents they can't talk to one another. Yeah. And they're always reporting back to an orchestrator agent. So with team agents, it's more of a complicated model. These agents can talk to one another.
Okay.
But really, it's sub-agents is the space that really want to be, I'd say 90% of the time. I guess if you're getting started, just don't worry about team agents. It's okay, may get the YouTube views, but the reality of a lot of use cases, sub-agents is where you want to be.
Sure.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about AI fluency and what that actually means a while back. And there's 4 attributes of AI fluency. And one of them is really delegating or delegation. It's knowing when to delegate work across your team, whether that's to people or to AI agents. And that's what we're trying to do, is trying to work out on what we can delegate in our business. And these AI agents will then run in parallel and they will report back. And the idea is get time back. Okay. So you'll hear the word front matter a fair bit, and this is used to describe the agent skills. So what we have there is you've got an agent name, or a skill name and a skill description. They're core attributes. There's maybe 4 or 5 other ones as well. And they're really important because we are working with an agent. An agent will have a number of tools, and being clear in the name and the description is so important to making sure that the right tool is invoked. Okay. Step 3 then is really knowing when to go and build or to extend an agent or to build your skills. And what that's all about is if your agents that come out of the box aren't achieving what you want them to achieve, you can then go and hire or develop your own specialist agent. And I know on your channel, Mason, you've done that in many different ways. You've done that using Slack, using Make, using Trilliant voice agents.
Yes.
You've got a fair bit of experience there. And the same is true if we're using Claude Code. I do encourage people to see what they can get out of the box with the Explore, Planner, general purpose agents. And from there, you can enhance it with your own skills or your own agents.
That's great.
So I'm going to skip over this a little bit. Just really want to make sure it's very important that when we're coming up with these skills, and they're like standard operating procedures, we're very clear in the name of the skill, the description of the skill, to make sure that it gets correctly. And what you can do is some of these skills, you can actually say, I think it's book you specify. And what that means is that when that skill gets invoked, it actually starts up in a new session as well. So again, it doesn't pollute the context. So if you think that some skills could be very heavy, both on input tokens and output tokens, if you say, I want it to be done in a new session, but the report back, you can use that attributes as well. Okay?
Yeah.
And we can use the word Claude skills and agent skills changeably.
Great.
All right. I know it's a little bit theory based. I might be losing a few people, but I think trying to understand skills and agents is really important. A lot of people are so focused on using agents when just simple automations or skills would be suffice. So I just encourage people when they're using Claude Code and they're seeing what's getting returned, just as you mentioned, you saw with it says parallel agents are being kicked off, just be observant of that because that will help you work in a different way. Okay, so what we got here is really the difference between a skill and an agent. A skill is really just a recipe or it's a standard operating procedure. And also it's just a document with a set of instructions. Okay, it may have a script and so forth, but it does nothing on its own. Yeah, and the agent, it reads that playbook, it does the job, and then it reports back. Yeah. All right, so I've got a table here that kind of shows us the difference between agent skills and agent workers. And just recalling, when you come up with an agent, I think Claude's recommendation is don't create too many skills or tools for that agent. Really 4 or 5 is the best recommendation amount. If you create too many, then you may see that the wrong skill gets invoked kind of thing. So just bear that in mind if you are building your custom agents.
That's really good to know. So make it super specific, your agents.
Yes, that's right. It is, but you do see a lot of people going and creating too many agents because they just want to create multi-agents. So
Sure.
end of the day, it's like All right, let's just say you've got a team of employees. What would be the ideal way of structuring them or giving them roles and responsibilities? So it's really, even though we're dealing with AI, think of it just as a real world example of you've got your team. How would you, if you were able to change or reorganize your team, how would you set their skills? What would their tasks be?
That's a really good rule to live by.
Yeah. All right, so we've got here A plus B equals C. And the idea is, okay, so we've got a general AI worker and working together with skills, then it's going to better understand your business. Of course, what we need to feed in and make it available is that layer that I talked about, the context, the data, and the intelligence, because the agents, yeah, it's using skills or procedures, but it's also looking at your data, your context. And that really is the differentiator between for customers against their competitors. So the real value is your data more than AI. Is AI can leverage your data. So just remember, whatever shape or form, try and make best use of your data. It's all about your information.
That's great.
Okay, so here we're coming back to the three agents that come out of the box with Claude Code. So we got the researcher, the strategist, and the all-rounder. So we'll have a look at these. So again, if you're coming up with an offer, it makes sense to, and let's say it is software related to what I've done by providing an AI operating system for real estate agents. You want to look at your competitors, and what you're going to find is that where do you fit in? Is your offer low priced and it's a cheap monthly retainer, or is it a high tier ticket item? So you want to do your competitive analysis, and the Explore agent is great for that. Yeah. And then, like the other thing, let's say you go to restaurants, you could be, I know this is a bit overkill, but let's say you're doing it last minute, you could go to say 30 restaurants or Google reviews, and they've all got 50 reviews each. You could summarize those reviews. So forget this 4 out of 5. You really, after what do people say? So that's what the research agent can do, is to multiple reviews and summarize this information.
Nice.
And then all this analysis, this market analysis, really maps to the pain points. Yeah. And that's what people or businesses want. It's not so much AI. They want their pain points solved, and they want it done as seamlessly as they can, so they can grow their business and focus on what really matters. And so the research agent, yes, is really valuable. And that was a big part of the Claude Architect certification, is working with multiple research agents and how that information comes back, and you set them up really using the SDK kit.
Yep.
So the plan, yeah, we talked about the plan, is like, how do I do a product launch? So just coming back to a real estate offer, we talked about looking at a suburb, what are the metrics going on there? How do I do a listing? How do I do a vendor report? Okay, so if you want to put that out there and you don't have the warm client connections, you're going to possibly have to go cold outreach, and you can use the plan agent to do that work, or at least get you 80% of the way there. And I think we've got to remember that's where we want to be, is get 80% of the way there. And us as humans, we go in and do the really important bit at the end, and we're working with these agents. Yeah, they're not there to replace us. Yeah.
Agreed.
And again, obviously with a plan, like anything, there is a sequence of events. Yeah. So what order do things need to be done? So when I'm using Claude Code, yeah, I don't think I'm planning, but I end up planning a lot of the time. And I look at what gets produced, I review it, and I say, go and do it in a different order, or put more weight on this, try to say where the priorities are. So just if you're a project manager, how would you manage a project? Yeah, what are the milestones? What are the stages? What are the phases?
Yeah.
Just iterate back and forth, and then go, all right, let's go execute the plan. Yeah. And
sorry, is that kind of what you were talking about with being just AI fluent, or
yeah,
is understanding what you're looking at and maybe using your own brain a little bit because you know what's better, right? Claude comes to you with hey, here's this 6-step plan, but then you realize, oh, I know from experience, or I know it will be better if we swap this out, or if we put more focus on step 2,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, that's right. And it's a big part of being AI fluent. So even though you could have a product owner, a product manager, or a project manager, and they know the project management principles inside out, whether that's sprints or agile project manager, but to be AI fluent, that needs to come across. Then when you're working with AI, you need to know how to talk to AI, how to talk to Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT to come up with the plan. So that's what I mean with being AI fluent. And likewise with the voice agent space that we both worked in, you're putting guardrails in, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah.
Yep.
So and it's funny with the Fable 5, not funny really, but with Fable 5 just coming back on the scene, you do need to speak to that model in what slightly differently to existing models, because when you're if you ask questions about why did you evaluate that, or why did you go about it in a different way, then what happens, Fable 5 will switch to Opus 4.8. Okay. And that's a recent change in the last couple of days, because they're not wanting to give away, I guess, how things have been evaluated for the security risks that it was brought down.
Yep.
So again, it's really sure where I'm going with this, but it's knowing what you're working with, yeah, and planning and iterating accordingly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Then the general purpose then, so got a reliable hand for everything that doesn't need a specialist. Tidy and rename files, draft replies to emails, pull this into a table. And I think I perhaps use this the most sort of day to day, going, I'll convert this to a PDF document, or I'll rename this. I'm going, even though I've got it in my folder structure, I often say, oh, copy it to my downloads directly, because it's just easier for me to find and copy and paste, or bring this information and present it in this format kind of thing. So
remind me, you're not intentionally invoking
no.
and really any of these 3, or maybe it's different case by case, but like for the all-rounder, the general purpose agent, that's probably what gets invoked many. Would you say most of the time, possibly? Or does it depend on the project you're working on, maybe?
I think it depends on how you're using Claude, what kind of work that you're doing. I think that would get used a lot if you're cleaning up your project, or you're starting your project, or things like that. So I don't use the word general purpose when I'm speaking. And just coming back to here, I've got Whisper Flow. And what that is, if you speak to Claude or any AI agents, it's just transcribing your voice to text. So that just really speeds up the process of whatever you're building. And I think I speak at a pretty average pace. It's about 130 to 140 words per minute. And that's how fast I'm able to go back and forth with my input into Claude kind of thing. And I think I really love Whisper Flow, because there's so many translation tools out there, but it fixes up what you're saying as you go, and it really increases your productivity. Yeah.
Nice.
So only really in the last couple of months, I'm really got a lot more focus on the research, and I'm asking Claude to do things in different ways. All right. So let's have a look where we are now. Now, what we've got here, I've got each worker has its own desk. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to show here is that if I went to, now, I think what I showed before, which if I go into the plugins, I've got the real estate plugins. We've got all these different skills that fall into these 5 skill categories. And this becomes, I guess, the real estate agent's desk. Okay. Now, this bit, it's really trying to say that the AI agent's desk translates to the real estate agent's desk, or your desk. So really what we want is a clean, we don't want to be seeing code popping up all the time. Right. So all I'm just saying is there's a lot of noise, what's going on behind the scenes. And that's one of the reasons what you tend to see that Claude Code is banging away doing its thing, and it's showing a little bit of reporting back to you, but not everything. And what this test is about is having a cleaner view, so you can see your main conversation rather than have the 100 of lines of code or saying why it's gone about and done its reasoning in a certain way.
Yeah, just cut through all the noise.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So we're talking about your crew or your different agents. So we've got a worker. So I could ask a real question now. When I say a real question, I could go, all right, tell me who my competitors are and if it's got the right agent set up. And so here I'm going back. Remember I mentioned two angles. One angle was for the product or the offer, and the other was doing the research. So what I would be doing is asking, find competitor pricing for real estate offerings within Australia, if that's my market. And it's come back with these offers. So you can pay $200, $500. Then there's custom bills for this price. And there are also a lot cheaper offers. So you've got to try and work out who your competitors are. And the research agent is great for that. So I think the out-of-the-box agents are really good for all businesses because they're able to do extensive research, and everybody needs to know who the customers are. I know. Can I ask you, Mason? Do you know who you're trying to target? Or I know you've got a bit of a change in direction, so it's probably pretty clear for you now, and you'll get really focused on who your customer is.
Currently, it's still just home services. Anyone in a home service industry. So that could be plumbers, electricians, HVAC, anything of that sort. I wanted to, and I still want to in the future, maybe tackle the medical industry, healthcare clinics and such. But I don't want to touch it quite yet. So if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And so, what you can do is use...
And auto shops recently. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So let's look at home care services and say maybe, let's just look at the home care services.
Sure.
So what you can do, and I think a previous slide right at the beginning, I said, I'll jump, what slide on 12? Okay, I'll go back really quickly. I got sell before you build. Okay, a little bit tongue in cheek there. And what I mean by that is that it's now becoming so quick to build things. What you can do, and people, they're selling an offer before they fully built it or even started building on it. So with the home services area, you really need to understand your customer and you need to find what their pain points are. And I think it goes a little bit more than just they need a voice agent because they can't take their calls. Do you know what I mean? And you can spin up agents and they will come back with all the pain points. And you're going to be able to relate to some of them. Other ones, perhaps not so much, but you can bring it into your offer because from there you've got, all right, you're in a great position. You've got your organic or people following you, but then it's also the paid ads and stuff like that. And I know this is 101, but I'm trying to relate it in how these agents work for you. So you can use these agents to work out what actually hurts. It goes and reads forums, all different kind of forums. But before that, it was like, well, where are these small businesses? Where are they talking on? What are their problems? Maybe it's Facebook or whatever. But then you can go a step further and you say, what language are they using? What's their tone? What's their voice? And then you can pitch your services using their words, their language. So the message sounds like them. Yeah,
exactly.
And the reality is you're going to get a higher conversion. You need to get them, whether it's from your content or from the ad to your landing page. And then the final bit is they need to book a call. But that if you've got the right words, you know the pain points, then you're in a better place than you would have been if you hadn't done research.
Yeah.
And I think when we use AI to do the research, we've always got to take a pause and read the research, not go straight into implementation and put our own thoughts and overlay on it as well. So again, coming back to AI fluency, this was a no-brainer to delegate the research to AI to do that. But a different ICP, what you may find is all this information is closed behind a paywall. I can't get in. So I wouldn't be able to delegate it to AI. I would need to be having face-to-face conversations or doing a bit more networking. This is not what I did, but I've represented it this way to give you an idea. When I say I didn't do it, I used this concept, but with the research, for the real estate sort of space, I've got 4 different agents and they had different tasks to do, although they were all research agents. So agent 1 was focusing on appraisals and pricing. Queensland is a state here in Australia, so there was compliance and there was prospect grind as well. So that was agent 1. Agent 2 then focused on coaching, interviews, listing presentations, outsourcing calls. Form 2 is vendor disclosure, and so this small kind of compliance. All this is compliance and tools for agents. And here is what you may ask is the parent agent or the corner agent to work out how to segment the research and spin them.
Oh,
You see, spin them all off.
yep.
Another approach would be, there's so much to do. What we will do is just spin off the same agent in parallel 4 times. Maybe one is just looking at web. The other might be looking at PDF documents, and it may be different sources. So you can segment it in many different ways. Yeah.
I'm following. Yep. Smart.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that your research is grounded and covered. And just coming back to that architect certification, it does it tests you a bit on this, because there are problems when you make the segmentation too narrow and also too wide. So it's having the right balance. If you had too many agents going off, looking at very small components, it misses the connectiveness in the research, if you like. Yeah. And likewise, if you had one big one, you can see the drawbacks in that too. So everything I've been saying today is the same thing prior to, I think in many ways, in that you need to approach the problem. How do you segment it? How do you pull it apart? Project management, how do you decompose a project into its relevant tasks? What are the milestones and so forth?
Yeah.
So looking at these agents, what do they pull back? So agent 1 is bringing back compliance and appraisal information. So this is text. So we could reuse this because it's speaking the same language as a real estate agent. Here's some coaching listings. Form 2 and AI. Okay. It was very much a panic station, making sure we all got our checks and balances in place. So I think this was maybe a year ago. There was new legislation around this Form 2 in vendor disclosure. A change in legislation can have a huge impact on an industry, and being up and current with that's a real big pain point. And had I been onto this, say, 6 months ago, just jumping in on that's a real huge pain point for the real estate agents.
Yeah.
So I think what I showed before is the different kind of reports that the real estate offer could produce. So one was really around a suburb. What are the sale prices? What are the trends and so forth? Okay. And then it's got compliance administration and the prospecting for real estate agents. It never stops. It just continuously goes. They're obviously trying to win clients and so forth there. So what it is that you've got these different agents, and there needs to be a final pass of these 4 agents to bring the information back into a single view, a rank position of the customer, the pain points in order. What are the biggest pain points? So we got the 4 agents, and there's a synthesis agent that goes and looks at all those pain points that those sub-research agents have pulled back, and it prioritizes them. So you know how you can focus or where you should put your energy. And as I mentioned, that was number 1. So I mentioned there's managed agents and there's sub-agents. I'm really just talking about the sub-agent model. You could be speaking to Claude or Code, or you could be doing this through co-work, and you ask questions to go into this research. Or maybe it's not real estate and you've got a friend that's recently moved from overseas and they're looking to get a job in a particular sector. You can ask Claude Code to do some research to plan and give them an idea of how they could go about networking and doing research for the kind of jobs that they want, rather than just saying, oh, just go to this one website, seek.com. And then the coordinator agent, it's worked out that, okay, it's going to segment it into 3 different categories, 3 different real estate agents. And this information then will come back to the coordinator, and then it can be viewed through the strategist agent here. And then this information, they can come back to the coordinator and then come back to yourself with the results. You can see the research agents aren't going directly to you. They're coming back through the coordinator or the orchestrator layer. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they only report to the coordinator.
That's right. And that's a very important concept to understand. Yeah.
And I can see how, like you mentioned in the very beginning, I can see how you would want to do this to save on your context window in your main session, if you will.
Yeah.
It's loading all of that. Otherwise, it can just become very bloated very quickly. I can totally see that with this diagram. This is really good.
Yes. No, yeah, that's good that you brought that out. That's exactly the case. And we hear about lost in the middle, and that's true of these large context windows, is that it will remember some of the earlier conversations, it remembers the last few, but then it's lost in the middle. It doesn't put as much weight on them. So yeah, it's just spinning off the sub-agents and then reporting back. Because if you think that you give some instructions, let's put aside the number of tokens. Let's just talk words, okay? Now, I could get this coordinator and give an instruction of 100 words, 100 words, 100 words. This could go off and come back with a huge amount of information. Let's just say 5,000 words each, and just go back and forth, doing lots of things. But yeah, you want to be using, this is all in its own session, if you like, or context windows. Okay, what I've got here was, I think what I did, what was quite good in Claude Code is when you've done your research and it's gone about and given you the results, you can ask Claude, can you tell me how this came about? What agents did this? And you may get a surprising result. They didn't quite work in the way that you were expecting. They invoked different things. So I was under the impression that perhaps the Explorer agents would be invoked when I asked it to do certain things, but actually what was happening was the main agent was using my super data skills to return a playbook and return these 30 transcripts. It then saved the transcripts onto a disk kind of thing. And then what it did, it handed it to 4 general purpose workers, which read the material and pulled out the language. So what I've said earlier, the way that I thought it was going to work was that these research agents would be going off and doing the research. But what I found was the main agent actually did the research, but then it came back and it handed off to these general purpose agents to pull out the right language. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I'm following.
Yeah. So end of the day, I still got the same result, but I think the lesson there is it's good to understand what's actually going on underneath the bonnet. And I assumed something and it worked differently. So it's just asked it questions really. And what I'm hoping to do in another workshop is getting to show you how we can actually customize these agents. Because if we want to get a bit more specific, what I could have done is, rather than the main agent going off and doing the research for the super data skill, I could have made it happen within the research agents, but then I would have had to customize something from what was out of the box. I may have even have had to start it from scratch kind of thing. And we can look at when the out of the box agents aren't satisfying your needs, then you need to build your own agent or hire an agent, and that will be the next session that we're focusing on. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and look, this is just a little bit of a lead up into the next session. So yeah, as you can see, this wasn't a technical demo. It was taking you and everybody through how you can use agents, how you use skills, and a bit of the theory. And because what I'm wanting to get across is that gaining a better understanding of how it works will improve your skills on what you can get out, or improve your fluency with AI. And at the end of the day, you just got to give it a go and see how it works, ask questions. And when I was using it, I'll just dismiss that one. Oops. Okay. Yeah, with the market research, a lot of this gets done in the background and then converts the information. Yeah. So again, some of the language was, coming back, still juggling 9 tools before breakfast, hand the administration, to one that knows the Queen's rules. And that was the idea of this software here, is that it's in one place. It's in one clean area. We talked about the desk concept rather than AIOS. It's my desk. It's happening in one place rather than you're going into go high level, going into make or going into this database. You're trying to bring it all together into one place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we touched on the core layers. Remember, we talked about context, data, intelligence, and this is what differentiates you from your competitors, is having the right information that you yourselves can use, your AI agents, your AI workforce.
Yep. It's all about the data.
It's all about the data. That's right. And then it comes back to the AI operating system or executive assistant or your desk. So that's what I'm trying to bring it back to, is that we want to have everything at hand. We want to make use of our data, of our information, but we also want that information coming to us in a timely manner. Really, as soon as it's available, we want to be able to use it. And that's what AI and automation is really good at, is bringing that data gravity, if you like, to a centralized place, and then we can ask questions of it. Now, I mentioned the 2 angles. The first angle was really trying to understand the ICP, the business problem, their language. So I'm doing all that kind of research. And if you like, that is, once you've done it, it's set and forget. So you've done it. But then the other bit was the offer when you're using co-work or using the My Desk with the 5 different skill categories. And so when real estate agents are using that, they're asking questions, and the AI agent is going and working out which skills to use. Yeah. And that's the non-deterministic nature of AI, but it's working and it's trying to understand, well, what should I do? Which of my tools should I use? Yeah. So that second angle is, it's working autonomously, really, isn't it? Come to the first angle, when I'm using it to do the research, I'm always saying do this.
Yep.
So I really just want to differentiate the 2 things to really harness AI. It's the same thing with a voice agent, is that it's responding to many different questions, different clients and stuff like that. And so that's its true value, is when it's able to answer and respond to the unknown, if you like. All right. So this is, what does a specialist look like? So we just used the explore, plan, there's a general purpose agents, but if we to develop our own agents, just like the skills and stuff like that, it's got this front matter. You've got the name of the agent, you've got the description of the agent, then you say what tools that the agent can use. And as I say, 4 or 5 is ideal, and then you've got the different skills and so forth, like that. Okay, so what we got here? So this is really just setting it up for part 2, if you like, is going in, building some of these AI agents, and you can do that in a few different ways. So really, the way I did it for the real estate offer was just speaking back and forth with Claude, but giving it context that I wanted to leverage co-work for the skills and plugins, to be. If I go into here, you can also have, where is it, up here, where you see, sometimes you may see the agents in here as well, kind of thing. But because I was going to have the skills and offerings in co-work, I went about it in a different way.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So just summarizing. So the things to remember then is that I think this is really overlooked, is that you will already have a team in Claude Code. Yeah. You have this explore agent, you have the plan agent, and you have the all-rounder agent. Okay. And knowing you have these agents, it's like having more skills, more capability in yourself, and knowing how and when to use them. Okay. So just like with the skills that you've created yourselves, if you know what these skills are and you say, go use and name the skill, it's going to be 99.9%. It will go and use that skill. If you just give it a description, it's probably 98%. So if you know what skill that you want to use or what agent you want to use, do say it. That's more so when you customize the agents. Yeah. So we talked about AI fluency and knowing when to delegate. Yeah. And split the job across a team and you get a lot of hours back. So Mason, you say, I know you do. You really enjoy your hiking and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what you can do is before you go on your hike, I know we want to have the whole day off, but you can structure your prompts or have a conversation and you can say in such a way that you're going to use the plan agents. Yeah. And it's after it's done the planning, then it's going to do the executing and it's going to do all this research and stuff like that. Now, this could go and take, and depending upon the complexity, it could take 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, right? And it's doing all these things whilst you're hiking. And the other thing you can do is use the dispatch, right? So what happens is then when the agents are doing their work, you've also got the same session on your phone, but your laptop's open.
Back at home.
Yeah. And let's say you're on your hike or maybe you stop for lunch or something like that. You can intercept the work and you can give it additional instructions or you can make it navigate or push it in a slightly different direction. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You can check in, see, I imagine on the progress that's been done so far, what's been done.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's, oh, shoot, I forgot about this one really important thing in my planning session.
Yeah.
Hop into your phone on dispatch. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Because I don't know, if you look at those and stuff like that, what are they getting paid for? Really, to trying to get paid for really important decisions, aren't they? Yeah?
Exactly. Yep.
They're not, people on the board, likewise, they're getting paid for all their experience, their 20 plus years worth of experience, not the hours that they put in. And you can use that concept here as well, in that if you're able to use agents and many agents, so you could have 10, 15 work with you on a particular job. You control when they come back to you, when they report back to you. You read that information. It may just take you 15, 20 minutes to read it, and then you redirect them in a slightly different direction. But the unit of work or the number of man hours or number of AI hours is huge. So you are in control. You are directing them. You are steering the solution. You're steering the outcome kind of thing. You can see, the value in that is pretty huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a really good analogy. You pretty much are the CEO. You're in charge of making the big decisions, steering the ship, if you will.
That's right. But I think
and everything, you buy back so many man hours.
Those are people that have actually gone through a lot of their roles. They've gone through the organization. They have, from bottom up rather than they've just gone straight in with an MBA
and at the very top.
Because you need
experience.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that pretty much finishes it up, really. And to the next session, we can look at making it a little bit more practical and building your own playbooks, your skills, and your agents. Yeah, so you can better understand how to use agents in your business. And we've done a few sessions now, Mason, and they're all linked and related. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that part 2 session.
That sounds good. All right, Ben, let's finish up there. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate it today.